everyone. Welcome to this very special encore at the festival here, the International Television Festival in Monte-Carlo. Joining me today in Monaco are three American stars of the small screen. An actress who broke out as Poussey in Orange is the New Black. She's now starring as Moira in the award-winning Handmaid's Tale, Samira Wiley. Hello.
Hi, thank you.
Also with us, an actor who first rose to fame playing Blaine in the musical series Glee. He recently starred as the man who murdered the designer Gianni Versace in season 2 of American Crime Story, Darren Criss.
Hello.
Also with us, an actor who has starred in iconic series like Band of Brothers and Desperate Housewives. He's now playing Damien Dark in DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Neal McDonough. Hello.
Thank you. Nice
So
to be
great to have all three of you here. This festival is such a place to celebrate television. What's one TV show that's marked you in your lives, either as a child or something you've acted in? Darren?
Well, mine are all animated.
Really?
Yeah, I would say that I would be remiss not to give due credit to the Simpsons for basically raising my sense of humor and the obvious classics at this point, which is funny to call them classics now, but Seinfeld and Friends, and I watched a lot of Cheers as a kid. I was a huge fan of Lucy.
Samira, how about you?
I was pretty into Family Matters, otherwise known as the Steve Urkel Show.
Yeah. Did I do that?
You know, growing up, I was loved to see, like, you know, myself reflected on TV. So I was pretty much into like Black family like shows. And what else you got? Brandy was in this show called Moesha. Sounds crazy, but that was my show.
Dude, I loved Moesha.
You remember Moesha?
I loved Moesha.
How about you, Neal?
For me, as a kid, you know, All in the Family was one of my favorite shows as a kid because you know it's funny. You take a show back in the 70s and talked about all the different race problems and put everything out on the table and talked about everything there was and made fun of ourselves at the same time. And shows don't do that so much anymore. Other shows like Sopranos I really loved. Films like, you know, French Connection, those types of stories. I love the flawed characters of life. Archie Bunker, a very flawed character. You know, Tony Soprano, a very flawed character. And those are the characters that I gravitate towards as an actor myself. So those are the ones that, those are my favorite ones.
You forget how punk rock All in the Family kind of was.
Yeah,
it's
back
amazing.
in
A
the
lot
day.
of thematic things. You're like, wow, this is
Incredible.
71?
And the spin-offs
Holy-
and the Jeffersons and
Oh,
everything
man, it's
else. I mean,
crazy.
it was what a show it was to really talk about stuff that we're too afraid to talk about now, which is so unbelievably silly. No
But
one's
it's
a
interesting,
genius.
though, you mentioned this idea of just how things, you know, how different, how characters are kind of playing in the gray area, that sort of thing. And I feel that characters have really changed over the past 20 years. It's not so much all bad or all good. There's definitely this nuanced gray area in so many characters today. Like, for example, in Andrew Cunanan, in the man that you played, I mean, obviously a bad guy if you're going to simplify it, but yet the way you portray it, you sort of see how that evolution happened. Was that what interested you in that part?
Well, I think for any actor sitting at this table or anybody here, I mean, nobody wants to be a cut and dry person. I mean, as fun as it is to play, you know, a supervillain or a superhero, what makes them interesting is, you know, we like questioning our heroes and we like sort of humanizing our villains. We have to have, you know, the comedy and tragedy masks are divided by a very, very, very thin line.
This world has wasted me, and yet this world also made you, Mr. Versace, into a star. You're not better than me. We're the same. The only difference is that you got lucky.
Samira, what's it like for you shooting on The Handmaid's Tale, which is so brutal at times and so intense?
Yeah.
What do you do as a person just to kind of kick back when you come off of one of those really hardcore scenes to get back to you after the shoot?
Well, I tell everyone, please, the worst thing that you can do is binge watch The Handmaid's Tale. But that's basically what I have to do for like 7 months is like, you know, film this thing, read every script. And I think we try to do a job as a cast to try to remember the sense of play on set. And Elizabeth Moss, who's our amazing lead, is definitely a champion of that. And yeah, I think awareness is the first step, and I think I'm aware that I need to like separate that part. So yeah. They needed to do it this way. All the bank accounts and the jobs all at the same time. You imagine the airports otherwise?
No, please don't take her. No. Neal, you had such a breakthrough in 2001 with the HBO miniseries Band of Brothers. That was created by Steven Spielberg, one of the most expensive miniseries of the time. Do you feel like that opened the door to this golden age of TV that we're living in now, that show from HBO?
Well, before that, there was, when I first started, it was ABC, NBC, CBS, and then Fox, and that was kind of it. What HBO did, again, starting with Sopranos and then with Band of Brothers, it allowed writers different ways to tell their stories. It doesn't have to be on those obvious networks. Now with all the cable outlets, as an actor nowadays, there's so many places to go to, and instead of having 10 shows to work with, there's 100 shows to work with. Yeah. So for us, this is like the golden era for actors and for writers.
If I may make a crazy observation, I just realized all the shows that we mentioned that sort of raised us, or you asked us what had an effect on our lives, all of them were network comedies. And it's cool that now there is such a cachet and prestige in drama, and like people talk about these dramatic series like we would talk about those shows, those Norman Lear shows, or Family Matters, or The Simpsons, because there's a huge fan base and an accessibility to them because of this nexus of streaming that folks here in France or Italy or Monaco watch and consume the way that I consume those shows, and that's so crazy because they're dramatic shows. They're not, light fare.
But I think you really touched on it. It's not just the golden age of TV; it's the golden age of the TV viewer in a lot of ways, with all the different platforms. And Samira, you were really at the forefront with your show Orange Is the New Black. What was it like at that time having that show on Netflix, one of the first?
It's really interesting because to have the career that I have never worked in network television. When we
really missing out.
when we first started Orange, Netflix was a DVD service. I had nothing to look to say it's going to be like that. There was no House of Cards out yet, nothing. So it kind of felt like the Wild Wild West. Like, what are the rules? What are we doing? But I think the thing that I can really point to that is very specific to streaming television is the binge watching. Being able to sit down hour after hour after hour to people actually think you're their friend. They don't know where they know you from because they sit with you over and over and over again. And that was kind of hard for me in the beginning, yeah.
In regard to the fan reaction, you mean?
Exactly, yeah.
Have any of you had any sort of, perhaps now in retrospect, funny, but at the time impressive or scary encounters with fans? Anything a little over the top? Neal or Samira?
Well, Desperate Housewives, the fans were Desperate Housewives, especially at the time, it was the #1 show on the planet. And people really hated me for playing Dave Williams because of what I did to Nicolette. Because, especially network television, when you're putting 30 million viewers in front of the television every week, it's astounding. And the fan reaction for that is incredible.
I was going, it was, I think, at Columbus Circle in New York. I was going down an escalator and someone else was, there were escalators going like this, and someone grabbed me that was on the other escalator, and good. It was not good at all.
What do you guys notice? No. What do you guys notice about? We were talking about evolutions in television. How about diversity? For example, I'm thinking of when you played Blaine in Glee, this young gay high schooler. Did that feel new at the time? Did you feel like you were breaking down borders then?
No, but it doesn't seem like it when you're there because I guess I grew up in a pretty progressive part of the United States, and to me, cool, this is how it always should be, right? And I forget that in my sort of coastal progressive society that this is still smashing walls down in parts of the country where seeing something like this on television is groundbreaking for them. People are represented on television across sexuality, across color, across race or religion. In my crazy little isolated world, I go, yes, this is how it should always be. But there are people who watch who it really touches their life and changes their not only perspective but on the way that they feel represented in pop culture and in mainstream media. So it did feel really cool, but you don't really feel it until years go by and you meet people throughout the years that regale these stories of what that meant to them.
Do you feel a certain responsibility, Samira?
Absolutely. I think when Orange first started, the conversation was, look at the cast of women here. We got all different body types, we've got all different ages, and everything like that. And I heard so much from my fellow castmates about how different this was. And I feel a little naive because my career had just started, and I was like, what? Everything's not like this? I think about television, the ideal of we think of Leave It to Beaver, things like that, where you have this ideal family and it's almost like you watch television to see what your life could be. But I felt like there was a shift when Orange came out and shows like that, where we understood that our audience was hungry for seeing themselves on television. And I feel a great amount of responsibility and feel awesome to have been a part of that.
Darren, tell me a bit more about your show. You had some fantastic co-stars, Ricky Martin, Penelope Cruz. I'm bringing them
amateurs.
up. Amateurs. I know also they're both singers. You're a singer. Did you get any chance to have jam sessions with them?
Hell yeah.
Off? What was it like?
First
Tell
thing
me.
on my list.
Yeah?
First thing I was going to do if I'm going to hang out with Ricky Martin and Penelope Cruz is whip out the guitar and make sure I get them all to sing. So yes, that did happen and it was awesome, and I hope it happens many more times in my life.
Can I be invited, please?
Yeah.
I think we'd all like-
I brag to everybody I know as often as I can.
I know for you, Neal, you were telling me before the Monte-Carlo TV Festival in Monaco in particular is very important to you for a very personal reason.
Yeah,
Can you tell me?
16 years ago was the last time I was here, and 16 years ago I asked my wife to marry me.
Oh,
Right, so yeah, it's for me to come back here, it's 16 years, all the shows that we've done, all the movies, and 5 children, and I mean this is the first time
Wow.
we've been away from our
5
kids ever, and to be
That's
here.
nice.
So the two of us driving through the countryside yesterday and up to Chateau Eza, having lunch there, and seeing old friends, meeting new friends, and all these amazing fans here for the last few days. It's been really a fantastic time.
Samira, you're married as well. And Darren, if I have my information right, you're about to get married?
The tractor beam is taking me home.
Any advice for this young, soon-to-be newlywed?
Is she here?
She is.
And
She's much smarter than me.
so
She's
you
by
are
the
engaged
beach.
now? Officially
Yes,
engaged?
I'm engaged,
I was going to
yes.
say, dude, get it over with. Ask her now.
Just do it right. This is the place to do it.
I mean, 16 years later, I'm still cranking. You know what I mean?
Good. No, that's an inspiration.
I'm going to come back in 16 years. You're going to have 5 kids, too.
Okay, yeah, well, I don't know 5, but
Wait.
but I
Not
appreciate-
Irish Catholic,
I
Neal, not Irish
appreciate the bar being set pretty high. That's pretty
I'm
inspiring.
setting up bar way up there.
Thank you so much
you.
to all
Thank
of
you
you.
so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
to you
you.
for watching France 24. We'll see you soon.